Imagine this. You're standing in front of the world's greatest thinkers, and someone asks you to solve four of the biggest questions in philosophy. Right now. Well, today, we're looking at a set of answers to that very challenge. Answers that are as provocative as they are, well, incredibly confident.
So here's what we're going to cover.
First, we'll look at the four huge questions that were posed. Then, we'll dive into each of the author Xu pretty radical answers, and we'll wrap up with the jaw-dropping challenge he threw down to the entire philosophical community.
All right, so picture the scene. It's Beijing, 2018. The 24th World Congress of Philosophy is underway. The president of the International Federation of Philosophical Societies gets up and lays down a challenge. Four massive questions for everyone there, asking them to define our relationship with society, our future, our methods, and ultimately, ourselves.
First question up, it's that classic puzzle of the individual versus the group. Are we just a bunch of separate people who happen to live near each other? Or are we fundamentally part of something much bigger than ourselves? For centuries, this debate has really been framed as an either-or choice. On one side, you have the idea that society is this single unified thing, the one, and we're just parts of it. On the other side, there's the idea that society is just a word for a loose collection of individuals, the many. But the author, Xu, he just throws that whole idea out the window. He says it's neither. He proposes a third way, union. And this isn't some halfway point between the two, it's a completely different way of looking at it. He calls it an inseparable synthesis.
And he gives this fantastic analogy to explain it. Think about a single cell in your body. It absolutely cannot live on its own, right? But what is the body? It's nothing but cells. Same with an ant and its colony. They're an inseparable union. The part and the whole literally can't exist without each other.
Okay, so if union is about our present, the second question looks to the future. And this is where things get really futuristic and, frankly, a bit unsettling. With AI and other tech just exploding, where are we all going?
Now, what's really fascinating here is just how blunt his assessment is. He looks at the world's major civilizations, American, Chinese, and the theocracies in the Middle East, and basically says they're all doomed. He thinks none of them have what it takes to handle what's coming.
And what is coming, according to him, is this stark four-step process. First, intelligent tech keeps rising. That's unstoppable. That tech will eventually lead to biorobots. Then, those robots will make human reproduction totally obsolete. And the final chilling step? We'll have to compete with our own creations, and we'll lose. Humanity gets eliminated.
So yeah, it's a pretty grim forecast. Is there a way out? Well, the author proposes a single escape route, a new way of organizing society that he calls Xu-Feng-style communism. Now, he doesn't go into all the details here, but he presents it as literally the only alternative to extinction.
Okay, on to question 3. This one's about how we think. When we face a huge, species-level problem, what's the better approach? Should we criticize what's already there, or should we try out new ideas and see what works? And again, his answer is neither. He says criticism is great for pointing out what's broken, but it can't actually build anything new. On the other hand, verification, just trying things out, is way too slow and risky when our survival is on the line. He uses this really powerful metaphor. He says that trial and error is like trying to cross a raging river by feeling for stones one by one. Sure, it might work for a tiny stream, but for the massive challenges we face, a single unexpected wave could just wash us away.
So what's his answer? He calls it the Superman philosophy. The core idea is that instead of having a whole group of people fumbling around in the dark, humanity should get its direction from the clear judgment of the single most selfless and wise person alive.
And this leads to a seriously controversial claim. He says the collective wisdom of thousands of mediocre people is not as good as the foresight of one sage. And then the kicker, democracy is the pursuit of the mediocre. It's a direct challenge to one of our most fundamental ideas. And that brings us to the final, really personal question. Why do we even try to learn and grow? When you work on becoming a better person, who is it really for? Is it for you, or is it for other people? You might be seeing a pattern here, because his answer, once again, is neither. The goal isn't just about self-interest, but it's not about pure self-sacrifice either. He argues the real point is to get back to our pure and true human nature, a state that's in harmony with the natural world.
This is such a great analogy. Think about building a computer. A brilliant engineer doesn't ask, is this computer for me or for someone else? No, they just focus on one thing, making the best, highest performing machine possible. If they do that, it's going to be useful to anyone. And he's saying we should approach being human in the exact same way.
So let's just pull back for a second and remember where this is all happening. We've got 4 huge philosophical questions and 4 incredibly radical answers. And he's not just writing this down in a book somewhere, he's saying all of this live, on stage. And get this, the audience isn't just a handful of people. We're talking about over 7,000 of the world's leading philosophers, academics, and thinkers, all sitting there listening to this. And with that audience in front of him, Sefton closes with this, just incredible challenge. He basically says, any philosophical problem you guys can't solve, I can. You don't believe me? Fine, bring it on. Ask me your problem and watch me solve it. It's just an astonishing mic drop moment.
And that really leaves us with a big question to chew on. In our world, which feels more complex and overwhelming by the day, is the answer to look for a single wise voice to show us the way? Or is that idea more dangerous than the problems we're trying to solve?